Hello, everyone. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Ratcliffe, and I'm the newly elected chair of the board of the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. Thank you very much. Welcome to our annual breakfast, which this year honors former board member Ken Langone. I'd like to take a moment to thank our outgoing chair, Deb Coleman, for her tremendous contributions over the past 4 years. And more importantly, I'd like to thank Ken Langone for everything that he has done for this incredible organization. But most specifically, the example that he set for me and the other board members to follow. So thank you very much for that. So we have a lot more people to thank, but thank you. We have a lot more people to thank, but I'm going to leave that to our CEO, Young Lee, when she comes up here. I'd like to direct the remainder of my comments to our guests who are new to Damon Runyon. I fell in love with this place when I was introduced 18 years ago because it reminded me of a premier venture capital firm. Now, like a venture capital firm, we fund outstanding young people. It's really critical that you understand it's young people doing high-risk, high-reward research to achieve breakthroughs. Now, the focus on young people is important because the data is really clear that almost all breakthroughs are most likely to come from young people. That's true in almost every field, whether science, art, or the humanities. This is something that most people don't realize. So I say premier venture capital firm, or I draw an analogy to a premier venture capital firm because just like the top 3% of venture capital firms generate 95% of the realized returns of the venture capital industry, Damon Runyon has been associated with almost every breakthrough in cancer research, despite the fact that we only grant $18 million a year as compared to the annual budget of the NIH as applied to cancer of $5 billion. So tiny player, enormous impact. Now, we're consistently the first to fund breakthroughs because we're not focused on the percentage of our scientists who are going to succeed. We care far more about the magnitude of the success of the ones that do. This is a very, very different approach, and no other cancer research organization that I know takes this approach, which is why you're going to get a heck of a lot more impact from your donations if you choose to provide funding to Damon Runyon. Fortunately, you're going to get a feel for what I'm talking about when you hear from our scientists later in the program. We have about 10 more minutes for breakfast, and then our CEO, Young Lee, herself a former Damon Runyon-funded scientist, something that very few cancer research organizations can claim, will take us the rest of the way. So please enjoy your breakfast, and Young will come up here in about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Young Lee, the president and CEO of the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. I'm truly honored to welcome you here today. Thank you so much for joining us for our annual breakfast. We look forward to an inspiring program, and today we honor an extraordinary leader, Mr. Ken Langone, whose exceptional dedication and generosity have pushed boundaries to achieve breakthroughs in cancer research and improve lives. We have all been touched by cancer, and that's why we are here in this room together. Whether as patients or caregivers, many of us have unfortunately experienced the fear and uncertainty that surround a cancer diagnosis. Cancer is an incredibly complex, unfair, and unforgiving disease that does not discriminate. The odds are that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will receive a cancer diagnosis in their lifetime. These are scary statistics, Yet, we've made incredible progress, and the cancer survival rate has improved 33% in the last 30 years. This has led to an estimated over 18 million survivors in the United States alone. Yet, we need to do better and do more. As some of you in this room know, last year, my husband passed away from an aggressive sarcoma, a rare cancer of the bone and connective tissue. As I reflect on our experience during his diagnosis and treatment, I think about and appreciate the care, support, and wisdom of our oncology community here in New York City and across the country, including some of the scientists and doctors here this morning. They gave us hope and trust in science and medicine. I now understand even more deeply the critical importance of Damon Runyon's mission, funding brave and bold. Our goal is to replace fear and uncertainty with optimism and hope for the future. I view myself as an advocate for patients and medical research, and also as a scientist. As Andy mentioned, I was myself a Damon Runyon Fellow, so I understand firsthand the challenges of being a young scientist, and it's such a difficult career path. It's very demanding, and especially at the time when they're just launching their careers and becoming independent. I personally remember the invaluable support I received from Damon Runyon, my peers, and mentors as part of this distinguished scientific community. Thanks to all of you and your very generous support, Damon Runyon enables the next generation of leaders in cancer research to take risks and pursue innovative, paradigm-shifting studies that have the potential to improve treatment, diagnosis, and prevention of all cancers. Over 77 years of Damon Runyon-funded cancer research are a testament to the impact that focused and strategic funding can have to reshape our entire approach to understanding and treating cancer. We've made amazing advances and progress in all areas, from immunotherapy to targeted therapies to new applications of artificial intelligence. Damon Runyon scientists have made critical contributions to each and every one of these areas. We need to continue to invest in research so that we can ultimately eradicate all cancers. We fund research through 8 different award programs, each one targeted to support a specific cohort of scientists, from basic researchers to quantitative biologists to pediatric cancer researchers to physician scientists. We currently fund nearly 200 scientists across the country, and each one is working to tackle the most difficult questions and challenges to better understand how to personalize cancer treatments, diagnose cancers earlier, and prevent them altogether. This year, we launched a Pediatric Cancer Research Award in partnership with St. Jude Cancer Research Hospital. We're honored to be able to provide this dedicated investment to pediatric cancer researchers across the country to help improve the lives of children and adolescents with cancer. We also launched a new program called SPARK, Scholars Program for Advancing Research and Knowledge, which reaches earlier in the pipeline to recruit and provide mentored research opportunities to post-baccalaureate students who have an interest in pursuing MD or PhD programs in cancer research. We welcome and congratulate 2 of our awardees from Memorial Sloan Kettering and Hunter College who are joining us here this morning. They're over at this table here. Thank you. So as we look to the future, we have confidence that our strategy of funding exceptional young scientists and their innovative research will ultimately have a positive impact for all cancer patients. I'm filled with gratitude as I stand here in this room, to our board of directors, loyal donors and partners, our extraordinary Damon Runyon team, especially Kim Kubert, who put together this amazing event this morning, our scientists, mentors, and selection committees. I sincerely thank each and every one of you for your generosity and commitment to our mission. We're truly grateful to Andy Ratcliffe and to Deb Coleman for their leadership of our board, whose support is critical to the success of our organization. I'd like to ask all of our board members, current and past, to maybe raise your hand and or stand up and be recognized. Thank you. So we strive to reach new heights, and I'm thrilled to welcome our partners Luke Timmerman and the members of the 2024 Timmerman Traverse team, who recently climbed Mount Kilimanjaro to raise nearly $1.2 million for Damon Runyon. They're right over here. Thank you. And if anybody is interested in climbing to Everest Base Camp next year, go find Luke and talk to him. So we are truly inspired by our scientists, our Damon Runyon scientists, present and past. The work that they do each and every day represents promise for future breakthroughs, and we are proud and honored to support their research. We're truly grateful to the scientific committee members who generously volunteer their time and expertise to select the next generation of leaders in cancer research. So now I would ask that all of our current and former Damon Runyon scientists and committee members in the room, please raise your hands so that we can thank you. So before we celebrate our distinguished honoree, we're delighted to have the opportunity to hear from two of our scientists who will share their work with you today. It's my pleasure to introduce our first scientific speaker this morning, Dr. Lydia Finley. Lydia, thank you. So Lydia is a former Damon Runyon Fellow and a recipient of our Dale Fry Award for Breakthrough Scientists. She's a current mentor for the SPARK program, and she's associate member in the Cell Biology program and Jeffrey Bean Junior Faculty Chair at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. She's also an associate professor at Weill Cornell Medical College. Her lab investigates cell metabolism and its role in regulating cell fate decisions, which are important and underline many diseases, including cancer. Please join me in welcoming Lydia to the podium.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here today and have a chance to share a bit about the transformative impact that the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation has had on my scientific career. I study cell metabolism, the transformation of food into the molecules that cells need to function. Cell metabolism takes the nutrients that are available to a cell and converts them into the fats, the proteins, the nucleotides, and the energy that powers all cellular processes. And yet, metabolism is not the same in all cells. Some cells may have access to different nutrients. Other cells may need to make different conformations or repertoire of these functional molecules. As a result, different cells have different metabolic demands. My lab studies the origins and implications of this metabolic diversity. When a normal cell transforms into a cancer cell, its metabolic demands might change. Cancer cells may need more nutrients than the normal cells because they're growing faster. They also may not have access to the nutrients that are available to normal cells. When I wrote my fellowship proposal back in 2012, I proposed to study a unique metabolite that I hypothesized would fuel the growth of colon cancer cells. It was a good idea. I got funded, which is great. But unfortunately, soon after funding started, I disproved the hypothesis. And this is a bit of a blow. And frankly, I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't been supported by the Damon Runyon at this vulnerable time. But fortunately, I was supported by Damon Runyon. I was in the lab of a very supportive mentor, Craig Thompson, who is an emeritus board member here. And so I tackled a side project that I'd been working on. This project had nothing to do with cancer. Instead of studying how cancer cells changed metabolism, I wanted to study how normal cells changed metabolism as they changed who they were. This was a scientific black box at the time, ostensibly a very risky project, but because I had a supportive lab and the support of the foundation, I was able to tackle these questions. Using embryonic stem cells to model developmental state changes, we found that depending on the developmental state of a cell, they used nutrients differently. Because they used nutrients differently, they could accumulate metabolites differently, and in particular, one metabolite, alpha-ketoglutarate, accumulated to high levels in really highly self-renewing stem cells. These changes were not just correlative, they were causative. We could add this metabolite to one cell state and induce conversion to another cell state. This work showed that the metabolites within a cell shape who the cell is. And on the basis of this work, Damon Runyon helped fund the transition to my own lab, where I extended this paradigm into the concept of cancer. Cancer is a disease of aberrant sulfate control, so we wanted to know whether or not alpha-ketoglutarate could also control sulfate programs in the context of cancer. We found that alpha-ketoglutarate levels were regulated in the context of cancer. We found that the genes, the genetic mutations in cancer, could control alpha-ketoglutarate levels, and the environment, the nutrients present in the diet, could control alpha-ketoglutarate levels. That led us to ask if alpha-ketoglutarate could also change the identity of cancer cells themselves. Indeed, we found this to be the case in several model systems. In pancreatic cancer, in collaboration with Scott Lowe's lab, we found that normal, malignant, nasty pancreatic cancer cells, which form these dedifferentiated tumors, which you can see by the streaming histology, have low levels of alpha-ketoglutarate. But if we genetically engineered the tumors to have high levels of alpha-ketoglutarate, the cells moved backwards in developmental time. They became less malignant, less disordered. You can even see the emergence of more normal ductal structures, and the tumors no longer grew. In collaboration with Elaine Fuchs' lab, another board member, we also looked in squamous cell carcinoma, where we found that diet could control the identity of cancer cells, again, through alpha-ketoglutarate. When mice were on a normal diet, their tumors were full of dedifferentiated cells, nasty malignant cells shown in white. But when we starved them of amino acids, which induces alpha-ketoglutarate in the tumors, now the tumors differentiated and no longer grew. Again, we could recapitulate this just by inducing a genetic mutation that increased alpha-ketoglutarate in cells. So that tells us that metabolism can be manipulated to control cancer progression. Moving forward, my lab is really interested in understanding how. How can these metabolites actually control cancer cell identity? Can we exploit this to reverse cancer progression? And I think that considering cell state is going to be a really important aspect of targeting metabolism in cancer. To date, most efforts to target metabolism in cancer are focused on the tumor type, the lineage of the cancer, or the genotype, the mutations present, or the environment where the cancer is growing. We would argue that considering cell state is really important as well, because within a tumor, cells will adopt a spectrum of cell states that will have different metabolic demands. I also think that studying metabolism in cell state is going to yield a lot of other exciting surprises. That's because to date, most of our understanding about cell metabolism has been performed in studies on whole organs, differentiated tissues, or in cancer cells growing in a dish. We know almost nothing about metabolism as cells undergo sulfate transitions, as they change who they are. And I think that by studying metabolism during these transitions, we'll be able to identify metabolic programs that are required for specific cell states. And I'd argue that understanding the metabolism that underpins specific cell states is a prerequisite to effective targeting of metabolism to treat human disease. So I'm very excited about what's left to come, and I want to thank Damon Runyon and everyone in the room for the really transformative support that I think has enabled most of the discoveries of my career. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Next up, we have Dr. Robbie Upadhyaya, who was funded by our Damon Runyon Physician Scientist Training Award. This is an award that specifically targets scientists that have MDs and MD only, so no PhD, and they get to a point in their medical training where they recognize that they would like to have the opportunity to pursue research. So Robbie was funded by this award at NYU in the lab of Dr. Dan Littman. He's an assistant professor now at the Department of Medicine at the NYU School of Medicine, and his research focuses on the influence of the gut microbiome on patient response to immunotherapy. Robbie conducts research, but he also sees patients 1 day a week at Bellevue Hospital. Robbie, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Ravi. As Young mentioned, I'm a lung cancer doctor. I first came to NYU 10 years ago, almost exactly, as a dewy-eyed intern. I did medicine residency and I did oncology fellowship. Towards the end of that period, about halfway through these 10 years, I met up with Dan Littman. I had these ideas I'll tell you a little bit about today, these crazy ideas. And I put forth a proposal. I sent it to Dr. Bill Kalin and Young and everyone else at Damon Runyon, and they funded it. This was crucial for me because this allowed me to take a pause at the end of my clinical training and leave the hospital for about 3.5 years and immerse myself in Dan's lab, where I was just surrounded by basic fundamental immunology and questions that we could ask, techniques that I could learn, and projects that I could pursue. And one of those is one of the ones I want to talk to you about today. So I'm a lung cancer doctor, as mentioned, and many of the therapies that we give are immunotherapies today. They're therapies that are kind of outlined on the left hand, or the right hand of the slide in front of you. That's actually a T cell attacking a cancer cell. That's what we want. We give these therapies, and this is the hope that this is what happens, but it doesn't actually happen, and it's still a mystery why. And there's many, many people working on this problem, and this applies to CAR T cells, anti-PD-1, bone marrow transplant, a host of immunotherapies. On the other hand of the slide, on the left, you'll see this beautiful picture from Justin Sonnenberg's lab at Stanford. And today I'm going to talk to you about the gut microbiota. Now, we're at a lovely breakfast, so I don't want to be too grotesque, but everyone in this room is a mammal and harbors around 3 pounds of bacteria in your gut. You've lived with these bacteria your entire life. In fact, they were crucial to how you became you. They are a part of you. They're at peace with you. They're not causing an infection. In fact, they're providing a lot of your health. The more that we learn about this, your neurological health, your greater immune health, your ability to fight off infection, and so on and so forth, as well as cancer itself. When I joined Dan's lab, there was a slew of papers that made it quite clear, this phenomenon, that both in mouse and in human, if you wipe away this gut microbiota, or if you change it, you no longer respond to these immunotherapies optimally at all. And at least in the mouse, when you start putting in what people found as these magic bacteria, you can all of a sudden boost the anti-tumor immune response. But even as of today, we really don't know the mechanism as to how this works. And I don't want everyone rushing out and buying the yogurt chilled by Oprah right now. Probiotics are marketed, but we don't understand. But we can get to a point of understanding where we can actually use probiotics to actually be a part of therapeutics, and that's what we want to do today. So, like many other groups, and I'll spare you all the details, we went on the hunt for these magic bacteria. And actually, in that slide before, it was a rainbow picture of these trillions of organisms that live in your gut. We developed a system both in germ-free mice and in SPF mice and regular mice where we can take a healthy commensal from a human. This is actually from a human donor. And what you're seeing in pink there is the bacteria actually overtaking the entire colon, the large intestine of this mouse. And the blue is actually the mouse itself. That's the part of their colon that it's next to. You'll see that the bacteria aren't invading. They're just living there peacefully. In fact, if we go to the next slide, we actually zoom in. Those are these big blue blobs at the bottom. These are actual individual cells of your epithelium in your colon. And still, you'll see there's a big black space before you get to the pink bacteria. We've proven, and I'll summarize all the experiments, that these bacteria not only do not invade, but that the T cells and the other cells that are programmed by the bacteria, they're not moving anywhere. Everything is at peace. Instead, what we hypothesize is that there are crucial genes in these specific bacteria that we study that allow them to secrete very exotic but very potent molecules, drugs if you will, that then enter the host. They enter the bloodstream, make its way all the way to the lung tumor, the pancreatic tumor, or what have you, and they affect whether or not the T cells can actually do the job that we want them to do. We went through a series of experiments where we did these models where we would take mice, we would set up these unique microbiota conditions, and then we put in cancer, we watched the cancer go away. And that was great. And we've done many variations on this with many types of cancer. But what we really wanted to know is, can this be a therapeutic? To achieve this, we actually had to do the reverse, because when I see patients on Wednesdays, a patient walks in and says, "Doc, I have cancer, what should I do?" I can't go back in time to change their microbiota. I would have to change it at that time. So to do that in the mouse, we actually relied on very sophisticated models that many people in this room have helped set up, where we actually introduce a virus and turn on genes and so forth to introduce a slow-growing human-like cancer in the mouse, in the lung. And that's what you see in this diagram. And then we have a period of about 7 to 8 weeks longer that the mouse survives with this lung cancer that we can now play these therapeutic games, including with the bacteria that we found. So we wanted to ask, if we generate lung cancer in these mice, and then we take certain cages and we swap out their microbiota with the ones that we think are efficacious, can we actually treat? So you see that there was an MRI in that last picture, and for those of you that have family members, a crucial moment is when you come into my office and I show you the latest CAT scan. Did they progress? Is the therapy working? So forth. We were actually able to do this with these mice. In these images, you can actually see in the black space of the lung, there's these huge balls. Those are actually the unfortunate lung tumors that are growing. On the other side, you can see that we've actually drawn them out, so we can actually measure how large the tumor is in these mice at this baseline scan. So here you're seeing the exact same mouse at 10 weeks after inducing the tumor and 7 weeks later. So as it scans through, you can actually see the highlighted tumor that we can visualize, and you can see, even with your own eyes, that in fact this cancer is growing and the mouse is going to succumb to this disease. So the question is, between this baseline scan and the post-scan, can we actually introduce our microbiota to actually have an effect? And what we are incredibly excited is that the answer is yes. All the tumors, this was without any other adjuvant therapy, but just with the bacteria alone, you'll see in the control groups that the tumors grew about 40-fold larger. And in our efficacy group, they actually grew only 15 times larger. So there was a huge decrease in the growth of these tumors just due to these compounds that these magic bacteria were secreting into the host. We have hopes that we can combine this with, again, all the other immunotherapies that exist, anti-PD-1, CAR T cells, bone marrow transplant, and what have you, and that this could have a huge impact on actually allowing those very important therapies to now have much more efficacy across a much greater population than we currently treat. I think my last slide got cut, but I want to thank, again, Damon Runyon. There's no way I could do this without the funding from Damon Runyon. I now see patients 1 day a week, but my salary is supported with all kinds of funding through the research community, and it started off with the credibility that I got from Damon Runyon. I have a huge momentum. I personally have a lot of enthusiasm. The patients I see on Wednesdays motivate me, and everyone in this room motivates me. And thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Robbie. So next, it's my absolute honor to introduce Dr. Richard O'Reilly. Rich is the Claire L. Tao Chair in Pediatric Oncology Research and former chair of the Department of Pediatrics at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. He is a past president of the Damon Runyon Board of Directors and a current member of the Scientific Committee of the board. He's a trailblazer in pediatric cancer research and treatment, and his discoveries dramatically improved treatment options for patients with leukemia and solid tumors. He pioneered the use of marrow transplants from unrelated donors and half-matched donors, dramatically improving treatment options for patients with leukemia and other diseases. He also developed new immune T-cell-based therapies to address common complications that are experienced by transplant patients. Rich's laboratory continues to search for ways to use adoptive cell therapies to improve outcomes and lessen the chance of leukemia recurrence. We are absolutely privileged to have his support and leadership as one of Damon Runyon's greatest advocates and champions. I'm delighted to turn the microphone over to Dr. Rich O'Reilly to share remarks about our honoree, Mr. Ken Langone.
You go on. Oh, there we are. Okay. I have the huge honor to, in part, introduce Ken Langone, but I'm going to do it by telling you stories about the man. Okay? When I was president of the Damon Runyon, one of the issues that really came up was what could we do next? Because we had actually developed an extraordinary capacity to pick extraordinary young individuals who are PhDs who are going to do research in cancer. And at that time, there was this committee of the National Academy, and Dave Nathan wrote a long statement about what was needed to accelerate discovery, and in particular, accelerate translation of advances into things that were meaningful for patients. And from that, he talked about the importance of the physician scientist. That is an individual who is trained in research, but also an individual who is particularly trained in medicine, a clinician who took care of patients. And at that time, there came out this great image. That is, if the investigator knew the patient well enough to shake his hand, that individual, if he was really smart and doing something really worthwhile, there was a need. And the big reason why it was a need is because many of these most talented individuals couldn't afford to go into research. They could do the grants, they could get the funds for the granting, but at the end of it, they were saddled oftentimes with $150,000 to $200,000 worth of medical school debt. And I remember Kenny coming up and saying, you guys have got to think out, how would we do this? And what I want you to do is you get together, make a plan, make it big. That's a classic of Ken Langone. Now you have to understand where I'm at. I think the world of this man. I think the world of this man, not just for what he did for Damon Runyon, but from other spots. You know, I was on a board with him, the McDonald House, we have the Harlem Children's Zone, we have the Promise Academy, a series of things where he's really also into kids. I'm a pediatrician. I consider anything younger than myself to be pediatric. And what happened from that long series of discussions that Sam Silverstein and several others came together, okay, up at Yale, in Morey's, of all places, was a plan. And the plan was specifically to develop a clinical investigator track where the Damon Runyon would provide funds for the research of the individual, and we would choose the best. And at the end of that, if they did well, we would also retire a lot of their debt, $100,000 worth of their debt. This was a game changer. This was the first time this had been done in the nation. It was subsequently copied by the NIH, and it's been copied by other spots as well at the present time. But at that particular time, at the dawn of the era of genomics, of all the opportunities that we currently now have to ask questions, it was a pivotal change. When we look at the graduates of this program at the present time, we're looking at extraordinary individuals, individuals who have changed what I do, immunotherapeutics, people who have made the most imaginative chimeric antigen receptor T cells, other individuals who introduced the idea of developing T cell receptors that could be then made into infectious agents that would infect a T cell and engage it and allow that T cell now to be redirected and retargeted to a tumor. Individuals who defined mutations that had critical roles in the development of cancers, both in kids and in adults. And not only did they define those mutations, but they went on to develop approaches which would target those mutations and induce cures of these diseases. If you look at this alumni of the clinical investigators just so far, you have a series of individuals who now run cancer centers at major places like University of Pennsylvania, up in Boston at Harvard, at the Dana-Farber, and other sites throughout the country. Okay? You also have these individuals who have made things that have made a big difference. What I'm saying that was said before by Andy is that this is an extraordinary organization which has an incredible group of scientists who are very good at picking. They pick winners. One of the things that Young didn't talk about is the fact that you look at science at the present time, and what you're always hoping for is those individuals who make those huge discoveries that ultimately end them in the National Academy. There are 104 graduates of the Damon Runyon who are now in the National Academy. So if you're looking at a place, at an organization which actually is capable of picking out those who have the capacity to think beyond, to really find the new, this is where it is. Ken really started this in the clinical investigation mode by convincing Lilly to invest in this. And it was with hands off. You guys at Damon Runyon, you and your scientific community define who will be picked. We'd like to see him, but that's as far as it goes. That initial $25 million investment was a huge event, and it made extraordinary progress for this program. I can't say enough about Ken Langone. I think he's done some just wondrous things. I, like to periodically go and make things at home. I'm into Home Depot.
Don't go there, I can't go.
Yeah. But this is a man who has made enormous, a lot of people wealthy, enormous wealth on his own, but most importantly, he's made a huge difference for humankind, and particularly in the context of cancer. So I know him from that side, and from the other side, also as business, is Lee Cooperman, who is now going to take over for me and tell you a little bit more about Ken Langone. But this is a very special individual.
Thanks, Rich. You're looking good. I congratulate Damon Runyon on the selection of Ken Langone as your honoree. I can't imagine a more deserving individual. I've known Ken for about 67 years. He's an exceptional human being that is always available to lend a helping hand. He treats everyone he comes in contact with in the same manner, no matter what their station in life is. I recall a dinner I had with Ken, and he probably won't even remember this story, 50 years ago. The dinner consisted of 4 people. I'll mention 3 of the 4, and I won't mention the 4th. Ed Spiegel put together the dinner, one of the great salesmen of all time, Ken and me, and a money manager. And the purpose of the dinner was Ken was going to give a client to this new money manager. When Ken saw how he dealt with the waiter, he was so put off, he never raised the subject. And that's the kind of person that Ken is. It speaks volumes about him as a person. I won't go through all his professional accomplishments. Everybody talks about him being a co-founder of Home Depot. Let me tell you the story if you don't know it. I think on a weekday night, he got a call from Bernie Marcus, who was terminated unmercifully by Ming the Merciless Sandy Sigaloff of Wix. And basically, he called up Ken, literally in tears, saying, look, I got 3 kids, a big mortgage, no job. And Ken said, what the hell are you worried about? I'll help you raise the money, and we'll open your superstore. He got 40 families, I think, to put up $50,000 each, and the company's market cap today is about $300+ billion. And he's a great investor in his own right, And I can tell you, you know, if I just followed what he did in the market, even though that's my expertise, I'd be a lot better off. He's one of the most astute investors you'll meet. I would just say that I'm extraordinarily honored. I've been in the business for close to 70 years. I've never met anybody that I hold in higher regard than I hold Ken Langone. He's a role model for every one of us in this room. He's just an exceptional human being. To honor Ken, I am pleased to announce that the foundation is naming a new recipient of the Damon Runyon Quantitative Biology Fellowship Award in his honor. The Kenneth G. Langone Quantitative Biology Fellow of the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation is Isabella Grebsky, currently working under the mentorship of Dr. David Knowles and Dr. Rahul Satya at the New York Genome Center, which Isabella is leveraging CRISPR-based technologies and novel computational framework to identify the mechanisms of how cancer drugs function in the cell. This could be important for the discovery and FDA approval of new cancer therapies. Isabella, please stand and be recognized. I had a stroke last week, so I had trouble. I hope she stood. I lost vision in my left eye. I still got my right eye. And don't feel sorry for me because I tell everybody the same thing. Throughout life, you can have setbacks. What makes a success is how you handle the setbacks. So I have Parkinson's. I'm a little slowed down. And I have had a stroke with left me blind in my left eye. But I got another eye that's functioning very well. Ken, come on up. How about coming up? Thanks for investing in high-risk, high-reward cancer research. And now I'm going to turn the podium over to you, and you're going to tell everybody why you're as exceptional as we think you are. As you know, you're my hero.
I want to assure everybody after these kind words, I don't walk on water. I think of Damon Runyon, and it's an interesting chapter in my life. It was the very first charity that I got involved with. And I didn't enlist, I was drafted. The endowment was down to $3 million. A group of real estate operators had been running it into the ground. And lo and behold, a fellow by the name of Dale Fry showed up. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. I had 3 kids to feed and a beautiful wife who's here with me today and been with me on every step of this journey. We're going to be married 68 years in September. She was 3 and I was 5 when we got married. But anyway, GE Pension Fund was one of my big customers. And the guy that ran it was a fellow by the name of Dale Fry, who I nicknamed the Bear because he growled, he didn't talk. And he calls me up and he says to me, I just took over this Damon Runyon thing, and you're going on the board. I go, Dale, what the hell is it? He says, that doesn't matter what it is, you're on the board. And I thought, I was thinking about those 3 kids to feed, and I said, wait a minute. I said, there's certainly economic motivation here for me to say, okay, and I did. And I'll tell you, Rich was there, and God bless Tom Fay, he was here, I know he's here today. We got in the trenches and we went to work. And I can only tell you this, that the first gift we made, we did it in honor of my mother-in-law, who passed away from pancreatic cancer. And let me tell you about her. I was going to school nights, and we lived in a little one-bedroom apartment in Flushing. And Elaine, by the way, Elaine was making more money than I was. I had a college degree, and she didn't. I was making $80 a week, and she was making $100 a week. And she was working for a doctor. She was medical secretary for a wonderful friend. And Thursday nights, that doctor had visiting hours, and Elaine worked, and she'd go to her parents that lived in Manhasset. And I knew when I got home at 11 o'clock on Thursday night, there was a plate that my mother-in-law had put together for my supper. She was a wonderful woman, and she died much too young. And so we made this first gift, and that was her very first gift. Now, I'll leave you with a thought. Unfortunately, I'm known, and Elaine is known, we do this together, by the way, we're known for giving away money, lots of it. Let me tell you a remarkable thing. I've always ended up making more than I gave away, so I know I can't beat God in that regard. And I mean that. When you talk about sacrifice, I can assure you that the financial grants we've made, we haven't sacrificed a thing. The thing that I don't think we get enough credit for, and I urge all of you to think about this, our time. And I think I'm proudest, not that I got Lily to give us, by the way, it was $27.5 billion, not 25. And I'm now being rewarded because if anybody knows, Lily's gone nuts with these new drugs, and Elaine and I have been along for the whole ride. But in any event, I would rather be remembered for the time we gave, because you don't get that back. I could have been reading a book. I could have been playing some golf, which is not very good, so I don't miss that much there. But I could be having dinner with a friend. So I urge all of you, don't say you wish you could do. You can do. You can do. You can do it with your time and with your talent. The money will come. Trust me, there's people out there that are willing to share their good fortune. And one more thought. We're in a period of time in America where we're chewing up on each other. Don't sell America short. My success is largely a success of this great country. Elena and I have been fortunate to live in it and have all those benefits. And so I leave you with one thought. First of all, thank you, Damon Runyon, for picking me. Lee, your words will ring in my heart forever. You're a good man. And together we've done pretty good. But like me, time. Just remember one thing. Your net worth is what good you do with what you have, not how much money you have. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ken. You're an inspiration to all of us in this room, and thank you to Lee and to Rich. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us this morning. We're immensely grateful for your support and dedication to our mission to continue the Damon Runyon legacy of funding brave and bold. Your generous support of Damon Runyon enables us to continue our important work. And this year alone, Damon Runyon committed over $20 million to brave and bold scientists, the future leaders of their fields. I'm glad to announce that through today's event, we have raised nearly $1.5 million directly to support cancer research. And as always, 100% of all donations fund cancer research and not overhead. Before we conclude our program, we have a special treat. So we are going to hold a special auction for tickets for the U.S. Open Tennis Championship, thanks to donor Peter Worth and Alliant Insurance Services. And I'm glad to welcome to the stage this morning's auctioneer, Shruti Nayak, who is also a former Damon Runyon scientist and associate professor at NYU in the departments of medicine, pathology, and dermatology. Shruti?
Hi, everyone. So as Young mentioned, my day job is I'm an associate professor at NYU Langone Health, so another transformative organization that has been transformed by Mr. Langone. Thank you very much. And we're here to raise even more funds. So she said 1.5 million. Let's see if we can get that number up to support our fellows. So today I'm here to auction 4 box seats to the US Open, the Grand Slam. These were donated by Peter Worth and Alliance Insurance Services, so thank you very much for that support. And you'll notice none of you have paddles at your table, so you're going to use your hands as paddles and raise your hands. The seats are worth about $2,500, so bidding will start at $3,000. And I will say it's an early day, so it's August 28th, and so all the tennis lovers out there who want to get to catch a wide variety of matches, this is a great one to go to. So really excited to start this bidding and get this going. So who's interested in starting their bidding for 4 box seats August 28th at the US Open starting at $3,000? I want to see some hands. No hands? All right, 3,000. Do we have 3,200? Actually, 3,500. 3,500. Do we have 3,500? 4,000. Do we have 4,000? 4,000. Oh, wow. What about 4,500? Come on, 4,500. 4,500. This is one fellow costs $300,000 to fund. So I want to see more hands in this auditorium. Do we have 5,000? 5,000. Very good, sir. Oh, 5,500? Awesome. Once you raise your hand, it's the next bid up. Do we have 6,000? 6,000. Thank you very much. 6,500. Come on. Come on. We can do it. 6,500. Awesome. Thank you. 7,000. Can we do it? Oh, 7,000 in the corner. What about 8,000? Can we jump in thousands now? I love it. I love it. So table, I don't know what table number that is, but we love table 10 and we love table 4. Let's start a bidding war going. What about 9,000? 9,000. 4 seats. 4 seats. Just imagine those honey juices. 9,000. What about 10,000? 10,000 at table 9. Awesome. Oh my God, guys. We're going to fund a whole fellow today. I have a feeling we're going to fund a whole fellow today. 11. Will anyone go for 11? Those honey juices. Oh, yes. I love it. And I love your Hermes scarf. It's gorgeous. $12,000. This is the highest bid at a Damon Runyon auction. I know I do these auctions a lot. 12,000. Come on. Come on. So 11,000 to the beautiful lady in the Hermes scarf. Going once? All right. Wait, 12,000. Okay. Well, we have a 12,000. No, 12,000. Sir, so now it's between table 9 and table 8. Standoff. Standoff. All right. 13,000? 13,000 to Hermes scarf. 14,000, sir. 14,000, I love it. $15,000. I love it. 16,000? Should I be going up by what? Should I be going up by larger increments? I'm not actually an auctioneer, so I don't know what I don't actually know what I'm doing. 17,000. How about 20,000? 25,000. Oh my God, things are getting serious. Can I please have your card to fund my lab? Next. Would you? I don't know if we have another 4 to give. Do we have another 4 to give? Young? Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Worth and Alliance Insurance Services. So, do we lower the price to? Not lowering the price. I see the head shaking of no lowering prices. 14,000 each. What was it? 20,000 each. Oh my God, you guys, amazing! This is amazing. $40,000. Thank you so much. I have to say, I'm a former Damon Runyon Fellow, and you guys do not, like, the impact of this money, it changes our lives. It changes our entire trajectory, so thank you so much.
Peter, thank you so much for your generosity with donating the tickets. Thank you to Robin Coles from our board and Stephen Earlbaum for their generous contributions for these tickets. We truly appreciate it. All right, and our final thing is that many of you have put your names into this lovely bowl for a pair of Damon Runyon Broadway tickets. As you know, one other way that you can support Damon Runyon is through our Broadway ticket service, and every ticket that you purchase also is a contribution to the foundation and supports cancer research. And so I'm going to ask Trudy to help me out here and to pick a winner of. You done. We just lost them. Hold on. We'll put them back in. And our winner is Cindy Sulzberger. Congratulations, Cindy. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Trudy. This concludes our morning's program. Thank you so much again for joining us. We are so grateful to each and every one of you, and we appreciate you spending the morning with us. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.